Everybody, welcome. Thanks for being here. Those that are online and those that are here live. We will get started with our Board of Directors meeting for November of 2025. Robin, if we could start with a roll call, please.
Alderman Bob Bauman. Here. Alderwoman Milele Cox.
Present.
Mr. Grady Crosby. Here. Mr. Bill Christensen. Here. Mr. Mark Flaherty. Here. Representative Kaylin Haywood. Senator Rob Hutton.
Here.
Senator LaTanya Johnson. Mr. Jim Cantor.
Here.
Secretary Kathy Colton Blumenfeld.
Here. Good morning.
Morning. Mr. Greg Marcus. Here. Mayor Dennis McBride.
Here.
Alderman Jose Perez. Mr. Gerard Randall. Here. Representative Jesse Rodriguez. Here. Mr. Omar Sheck. Here. Ms. Liz Sumner. Here. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. First order of business, as per usual, is any discussion of the meeting minutes from the last board meeting in September, on September 26th of 2025. Any discussion? We'll seek a motion for approval. Do we have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, meeting minutes are approved. With that, we'll go into our financial report and our budget presentation from Kyle today. So he has the next two segments. And as always, Kyle, take it away. And any questions, please feel free to stop and ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Today's agenda includes a review of the 2025 forecast and a presentation of the proposed 2026 budget. We will also be sharing details on the planned refunding of the 2016 appropriation revenue bonds. Pending board feedback, we plan to bring that item forward for board approval at the January 2026 board meeting. In your packet today, you'll find the standard financial reports for the current year on pages 7 through 14. I'd like to focus primarily on the key changes since our last meeting in September. So let's begin on page 11, which compares the most current forecast in column N to the forecast presented in September, column M. Looking at line 65, column O, you'll see our most recent forecast is down just over $460,000 or 1.6% relative to September. Most of this negative variance is within operating revenues, particularly line 4, food and beverage revenue. About 2 weeks ago, we finalized an agreement with GalaxyCon to move their event from 2025 to 2026. This shift reduced our 2025 food and beverage forecast, but those revenues will now be realized in 2026. It is worth noting that food and beverage revenues remain ahead on both year-to-date actuals and 2025 annual forecast. Operating expenses in lines 15 through 26 remain stable. Several minor puts and takes, but a net decrease in expense of 0.18% from the prior forecast. In lines 29 through 39, there's minimal movement in non-operating revenues compared to September. Positive news on lines 35 and 38, interest income and the Bucks district ticket surcharge both outperformed forecast. Similarly, non-operating expenses, lines 41 through 63, show a few ups and downs, but overall a cumulative decrease in expense of 0.18% from the prior forecast. In summary, management is not concerned with the immaterial downward adjustment. At this stage of the fiscal year, there's limited risk remaining in these numbers, and based on the remaining event schedule and conservative forecasting, we expect final net income to finish stronger than what's presented today. I'm not going to touch on the other exhibits related to 2025 since they haven't changed significantly since September. We will review some of these figures during the 2026 budget presentation. Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions on the 2025 forecast, I'm happy to move on to the next agenda item, the 2026 budget.
Are there any questions for Kyle? Great. I also want to acknowledge that Representative Haywood has joined us for the meeting. All right, thank you.
All right, I'd like to start by acknowledging the Finance Committee members. For those in attendance today, this marks the third time you will hear the 2026 budget presentation. Thank you for your continued time and attention. We truly appreciate your commitment and patience as we work through this important process. Consistent with past practice, Marty and I met individually with each member of the Finance Committee in mid-October to review the budget process and key assumptions. We greatly value the feedback each of you shared during those discussions. Your input helps strengthen the final budget and ensure alignment with the district's priorities. The proposed budget has also been reviewed in open session with the Finance Committee. Following that review, the Finance Committee unanimously passed a motion recommending the adoption of the budget by the full board today. At the conclusion of this presentation, and after addressing any questions you may have, we will ask for a motion to adopt the 2026 budget. This is a budget management is proud of, one that sets ambitious but achievable goals. It challenges us to perform at a high level while not introducing material financial risks to the district. You'll notice shortly that our income statement reflects a modest year-over-year decrease, which may seem atypical. However, this budget delivers three key positives. One, continued growth in tax revenues. Two, a positive net income before depreciation. And three, a disciplined and strategically focused capital budget. Before diving into the documents, I want to take a moment to highlight the primary reason for the decrease from 2025 forecast to 2026 budget. The decline is largely driven by a shift in the event mix and the absence of several large food and beverage events that boosted 2025 results. In 2025, events such as the Baird Triennial Reunion, the Medicaid Systems Conference, the Salvation Army Belonging Event, Crew 25, and the National Guard collectively contributed about $3.7 million in food and beverage revenue. While 2026 does bring new events that weren't on the books last year, our top 5 F&B events in 2026 are projected to generate about $850,000 of net income, or roughly $2.85 million less than the top events in 2025. Another unique factor when comparing 2026 to prior years is interest income. From 2022 through 2024, the district benefited from unusually high non-operating income tied to interest earnings on expansion project funds. So while this was positive for the project, it temporarily inflated total net income, and those funds were restricted to the project. That level of financial impact cannot be replicated in future years or replaced through normal operating activity. These factors provide important context when comparing 2026 to prior years. We'll now get into the budget documents, so let's turn to page 15.
Kyle, just one quick second. I want to acknowledge that Senator Johnson has joined. Thank you.
We'll turn to starting with page 15, which outlines the event mix summary. The budget process really begins here. Establishing the event mix is the foundation for projecting our operating income. It's important to remember that the type and scale of events can significantly impact operating income from year to year. As mentioned earlier, a single large food and beverage event can have meaningful impact on operating income and count as one event within this document. For that reason, it's difficult to determine profitability directly from this summary, but comparing the event mix to prior years provides valuable insight into the building utilization and event trends across campus. So column A shows our 2026 budgeted event mix. On line 21, we're projecting to host 322 events district-wide. Of the 322 events, approximately 20% are considered blue sky, which accounts for 7% of total operating income. Based on these assumptions, we believe the overall risk to the budget is low. We're also projecting a full slate of events from our arena teams and 37 total events from PTG in the theater. Overall, we believe this budget event mix is reasonable representation of what we can expect in the upcoming year. Turning the page to the income statement on pages 16 and 17. Column A represents the 2026 budget numbers, column B, the 2025 forecast, and column C is the variance between the two. Columns E through H provide historical context from the past several years. I'd like to start towards the bottom with line 65. you'll see we're projecting net income before depreciation and expansion debt of $28.25 million, which is down slightly from our 2025 forecast of $28.4 million. As discussed earlier, this modest decrease is primarily driven by the change in food and beverage revenue, but is offset by the growth in tax revenues. Moving back up on the page, looking at operating revenues, lines 1 through 14. Line 1, lease revenue is projected at $4.65 million, down slightly from the 2025 forecast due to the shift in the event mix and the absence of those triannual events that we hosted in 2025. Even with that decline, lease revenue remains very strong compared to prior years, with the exception of the RNC in 2024. Line 4, food and beverage revenue is down compared to 2025, reflecting the absence of those high-volume events like Baird and the Medicaid conference that contributed significantly to F&B performance in 2025. That said, we are optimistic about 2026. We'll see the Cheese Expo return, along with the IPMI Parking Conference, the Board of Energy Practitioners, and the Employee Ownership Conference, all events with strong F&B components. Overall, the F&B target is strong and achievable. We've worked closely with the Levy team to prepare this budget, and we will continue to partner with them throughout the year to ensure performance stays on track. Line 10, advertising revenue is up year over year. We're projecting continued growth in our visual impact program, and we're budgeting for several new partnership agreements. We will also see a full year of revenues from our new deals, including Cousin Subs, Saz's, Stone Creek Coffee, and Educators Credit Union. Line 11, naming rights is down since we'll be in the option year of our Miller High Life Theater naming rights agreement with Molson Coors. David Schneider, our VP of Sponsorships, is already working to secure a naming rights partner for 2027 and beyond. In total, operating revenue is expected to be $24.1 million. Moving down to line 27, operating expenses, which shows a modest 1.5% year-over-year increase. Line 15, wages, we're budgeting for merit increases across the organization. 2 public safety positions, manager and director levels, were reclassified from operating wages to line 41 salaries to better reflect their true job responsibilities. As a result, you'll see less of an increase in operating wages and a corresponding larger increase in salaries. Lines 25 and 26, repairs and maintenance and miscellaneous maintenance, both lines show notable year-over-year increases, largely due to preventive maintenance agreements that were previously covered under the construction budget that are now reflected as operating expenses. Line 25 includes $200,000 for elevator and escalator preventive maintenance. Line 26 includes a $50,000 increase in the annual agreement for the Extract One security system. Additionally, maintenance and supplies for video services equipment, about $45,000, was removed from line 61 and added to line 26 in this year's budget. Overall, we are projecting a net operating income of about $3 million in 2026. Moving to non-operating revenues, you'll see tax revenues, line 34, is projected to increase by 3.9%. In 2023, we saw year-over-year growth in tax revenues of 13.2%, and in 2024, we saw growth of 5.5%. In 2025, we are on target to see growth of 4.2%, assuming budget figures hold for the remaining 4 months. We typically take a more conservative approach in this category, given how heavily it can be influenced by broader economic conditions. While major citywide events at the district undoubtedly drive tax revenue, even the modest economic slowdown can have a noticeable impact. Line 35, interest income. This is projected to decline year over year. This reflects both lower projected cash balances, as you'll see in the unrestricted cash flow model, and anticipated Federal Reserve rate cuts in 2026. And we've assumed a 2% increase in line 38, Bucks District Ticket Surcharge, based on updated actual attendance figures. Following feedback from the board, particularly Mayor McBride, this projection reflects fewer Bucks playoff games compared to 2025. Of course, a deeper playoff run would provide upside potential for this revenue line.
Go Bucks.
Moving on to non-operating expenses, line 64, you'll see a year-over-year increase of about 1.6%. Line 41, salaries, is up $497,000, reflecting the reclassification of the 2 public safety positions and the inclusion of a merit increase for 2026. Line 44, health and dental insurance, rises due to a 6% premium increase announced by the city, which is incorporated in both this line and line 16, operating payroll fringe. Line 49, Visit Milwaukee, expenses up, driven by higher city and county hotel tax collections. As taxes grow, so too does the payment to Visit. Line 53, insurance expense, reflects an 8% increase, driven by market rate increases. We continue to work with Horton, the district's insurance broker, to secure final 2026 premiums. While the market environment limits our ability to materially reduce costs, we're ensuring the district maintains comprehensive and reliable coverage at the most competitive rates available. Line 62, the city services payment, comes into play in 2026. This replaces the prior pilot payment and will be a contracted annual expense going forward. Note, line 63, bond interest expense, reflects a decrease. Bond interest continues to decline as district debt from before the expansion matures and is paid down. Conversely, line 66, bond interest expense expansion, is increasing as we do not begin making payments on the expansion debt until 2027. Altogether, these puts and takes result in a projected net income before depreciation and expansion bond interest expense of $28.25 million, a modest 0.5% decrease year over year, as shown on line 65. We can move on to pages 18 and 19, which is the capital budget. You'll notice this year's project list is quite extensive. Like in past years, we've grouped projects into 3 tiers to establish clear priorities. Tier A represents what's included in the 2026 budget. The highest priority items relate to life safety, building functionality, code compliance, and contractual obligations. Tiers B and C include projects identified as having a short remaining useful life and will be highly considered in 2027 and beyond. Our 2026 capital spend is budgeted at approximately $3.25 million, which is down from the $3.9 million we expect to spend in 2025. A few projects worth highlighting. Line 13 and 14 reflect the continued renovation and modernization of the Baird Center South elevators. This is a phased approach to this project, which began in 2025. Lines 23 and 26 relate to routine roof work across campus, and line 24 represents management fees for the planning and quoting of the Baird Center South roof replacement, which is anticipated for 2027. So overall, a focused and disciplined capital plan for 2026 that continues to invest in the reliability and long-term performance of our facilities. Pages 20 and 21 in your packet are the budgeted cash flow projections. One exhibit for unrestricted revenues, one exhibit for restricted revenues. Starting with the unrestricted cash flow, line 1 is where we expect the cash balance to be as of January 1. Line 25 is what we expect the cash balance to be as of December 31st, 2026. And line 24 is the net change for the year, a decrease of about $3.1 million. As we look to 2027 and beyond, we may look to issue a one-day bond to pay for capital expenditures, which would positively impact our unrestricted cash. The board approved similar transactions in both 2016 and 2022. We will continue to monitor cash closely and are cautiously optimistic that this number could improve throughout the year. Moving to restricted cash flows on page 21, given the projected cash in from tax revenues and offsetting cash out from principal and interest payments, we expect to end the year at $34.4 million. As I mentioned at the top of the presentation, this is a budget that management is proud of. one that sets ambitious but achievable goals while not introducing material risk to the district's financial position. Mr. Chairman, that is my report. Happy to answer any questions, and if there are none, management would ask the board to pass a motion adopting the proposed 2026 budget.
First, are there any questions for Kyle or anybody else regarding the budget? No?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah,
actually.
certainly.
Just
Greg.
about, does it even, something important, just, does it even matter? Do we have to have a reserve for replacement? I mean, we're funding our CapEx, I guess, out of our cash flow, thanks. Do we need a reserve here? I don't even know. You know, typically, we would have a reserve to fund major CapEx projects in 10 years, that come up.
Is the question, should we have a reserve or do we need a reserve?
Do we have one? I don't see one, or do we need one? Is just that is enough that we just know we're gonna have positive cash flow and be able to fund whatever we have to do? I mean, I'm assuming we'll have, in 7 years, someone's gonna say, well, the carpet, it's time. There's the vinyl, things, or 10 years. I don't know what it'll be for us. I'm just thinking about, in the hotel industry, we have to fund reserves beyond annual CapEx.
Yes, that is something that Marty and I and the finance team are always thinking about, is future capital spending and future capital plans. There is a capital maintenance fund that will be part of a resolution that helps to offset the cost of annual capital. I would say, Greg, that we are always looking to grow any sort of reserve related to capital for future spending. There is a capital plan that's in place and a 5-year capital plan. An official capital reserve? I would think that the restricted cash flows are the capital reserve. That is the intention of part of the restricted revenues.
There is no specific identified capital reserve account. The way the organization has used the restricted account is when there have been some significant capital requirements needed, we would bond those and then pay back the bonds from the restricted reserve, which can only be used for debt service.
Okay, do we have any idea, do we know, have we sort of looked out and said over the next 15 years, here's what we will need? I assume you're probably starting to think about that.
We are in the process of getting delivered back to us a deliverable that we contracted back in May from PC Sports to do a 20-year capital plan specifically for the Panther Arena and Miller High Life Theater. So we'll have the major items identified in the next couple of weeks, 2 months.
But what about for the rest of the place?
Not a 20-year plan. We have a 5-year working plan, but nothing beyond that at this
I don't
point.
know if you need 20, but maybe 10.
Sure.
Just thinking about sort of lifespan of the different things you got. Just to know that we have enough.
Sure.
Stocked away. The other question I had was tangential to this, but have we done a formal look back to say, here's what we said, because I don't even remember anymore, here's what we said we were going to do as an organization, here's how much cash we're going to generate and how much we're actually generating? And specifically, I'm imagining hotel taxes way more than we ever expected because rates are through the roof, which is partially from here, but partially just the world. I don't know how, but at a level to say, here's how much revenue we're generating here. Here's what we said we were going to do, and here's what we did.
Greg, yeah, there is the HVS study, I think, is where we can point to where we are versus where a benchmark of where we need to be. We can also compare to our own actuals, right? Which we do, and we have many comparison spreadsheets showing us where we thought we'd be and where we are. We have historically and continue to always outperform the HVS study in hotel tax revenues specifically.
I'm not so, I appreciate that, that's good. I'm just more thinking about, what did we say? Well, like we'll do, like when a team comes into our company and they present to us to make an investment, they present a pro forma and a projection, and then we do 1-year look back, a 3-year look back, a 5, we sort of, and if it's on track, then we stop looking back at it. But we do look back to see how we did compared to what we said we were gonna do. And I'm wondering if we're doing that here, and if it's even relevant, maybe it's not.
Well, we certainly look at prior year budgets and prior year
No,
actuals.
not prior. We came in and made this $450 million investment based on a projection. How many conventions we were gonna draw, how much revenue would that bring, with all those things that went into that projection. And I'm just curious if we've gone and said, we should look back and see, did we do what we say we were gonna do? It's helpful, because if, I'm assuming we did. I'll be optimistic about it. It's very helpful for the next time to say, see, we did what we said we were gonna do.
If I could just interject, this is one of the things that did come up during our committee meetings, and I do believe we have that in process that we're starting to, but I would want that to be an action item for the next board meeting, just to say, here's what we said, here's what was going to be, and let's just see where we are, right? We want to make sure that we, as a board, know where we are based on what we spent, we, the people, spent to get this done, and are generating what we said we were going to do. And it helps inform, it helps self-correct if we need to self-correct, and it helps accelerate where we need to accelerate. That's all.
Or even planning for the next time, knowing where we, how things show up. That's all.
Good question. Any other questions? Yeah, Gerard.
Have we pursued ticket surcharge revenue outside of Bucks games for the Fiserv complex?
The agreement with the Bucks is very clear in specifying that the facility fee that we get for every ticket, every paid ticket for Fiserv Forum is solely related to events that occur within the Fiserv Forum. Going back to when they did their first winter festival and other events outside of the building, we looked to see if that was something we could connect with. And it's clear in the contract, at least it was represented to us when we looked at it back in 2019, that it only pertains to events within the building.
Does that include concerts?
In the building or outside the building?
In the building?
Oh, yeah, we get, the facility fee is for every paid ticket for every event that occurs within the Fiserv Forum.
But it will not include the new complex for concerts?
Correct. It does not include the new Live Nation venue.
Is that something that would be open to discussion with them?
Certainly, we could raise that. I don't foresee they would be open to that, since contractually they're not obligated to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just one quick question.
Grady. Yes, thank you.
So, looking at the budget from '23 on up until now, there's been a slight but constant decrease in projected net income year over year. Just wondering, like even for this year, for '26, the year we're talking about, and you characterized it as modest, Cal, and it is 141,000, half a percentage off of the prior year. But should this be the expectation going forward, that, we're just kind of learning how to operate under the expanded center district, and because of that, that's why we've seen the tweak down as opposed to any generation going the opposite way?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Grady. The biggest thing when comparing the prior years is that line 35 throws a huge wrench into, I would say, what our real net income was due to the interest income earned on the project. If you put that aside for the purpose of this discussion, I think there's a learning curve that was being done in 2025, certainly. I don't expect, and I would not expect, a continued decrease in the budget versus forecast moving forward. No, I think we would be seeing. I can't promise anything until we see more actuals in 2025 and 2026, but we would start to see an increase on the bottom line.
And Grady, the biggest, and Kyle mentioned this in his opening comments, if you look at 22 actuals, it's really when we started to see, in 21 we would have started to see the explosive additional interest income because we're sitting on 456 million just generating interest, and we didn't really start paying that out until 21, 22, 23. So if you look at that line, it goes from 5 million, 13 million in 23, then it drops to 5, 2.7 in 2027, and I think where we are now at 2.7, that's probably going to be about where we're leveling off until. So you will see I'm comfortable that you will see that decrease year over year ending within the next year, and then we'll see percentage increases after that.
Does that answer your question, Grady? Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Are there any additional questions? All right, if not, I will seek a motion for approval of the 2026 budget for the Wisconsin Center District.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, was that an aye? Yeah. Any opposed? All right, the budget for any abstain? If not, the 2026 budget is approved for the Wisconsin Center District. Thanks, Kyle. So Kyle, this is for the resolution, right, for the capital maintenance funds moving forward. So we'll seek approval for the resolution for approval to approve the Wisconsin Center District President to apply funds to the capital maintenance account towards the purchase of equipment or capital maintenance items. Seek a motion for approval of that, as Kyle explained. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, the resolution for authorization for the funds has been approved. Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to Kyle. You want to introduce the revenue bonds? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the board for the approval on both the 2026 budget and the resolution. Our final finance topic today is the discussion regarding the refunding of the appropriation revenue bonds series 2016. As mentioned in our last board meeting and during the committee meetings, the district has been working with Baird on a potential refunding of these bonds. The agenda item is for discussion only. We'll note any feedback from the board and intend to bring the transaction forward for approval at the January 30th board meeting. We're pleased to have Justin Fisher here with us today from Baird. Baird has long served as the district's trusted financial advisor. Before I turn it over to Justin, I'd like to provide a brief overview of the 2016 appropriation revenue bonds. In addition, this bond series includes participation from the state of Wisconsin. Marty and I met with Aaron Heinz and Catherine Miller of the state's Capital Finance Office ahead of today's meeting. That conversation went very well, and the Capital Finance Office will be involved as the transaction moves forward. So on the screen, you'll see a summary. If you can go to the next slide, Luke, thank you. You'll see a summary of the history of the appropriation revenue bonds. In June of 2016, approximately $108 million of debt was issued to finance a portion of the Pfizer Forum construction costs. The annual debt service is funded by the state's $8 million appropriation that is sent to U.S. Bank, the district's trustee. The bonds have a December 15th maturity, with payments beginning in 2016 and continuing through 2035. With that background, I'll now turn it over to Justin Fisher from Baird, who will walk through the financial benefits and potential savings associated with the proposed refunding.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you. So as Kyle mentioned, if we go to the next slide, this is a 2016 appropriation. I can't believe it's 10 years since we did the financing for the Bucks Arena. But with that financing came along a repayment feature, which said that you can refinance the debt on June 15th, 2026, or any date thereafter. We're approaching that as we end the year in 2025 and kind of gearing up for the process of potentially refinancing this debt as we get closer to that call date on June 15th of 2026. You have the ability to refinance debt within 90 days of the call feature. So if it's June 15th, we can back up to about March, mid-March, when we can start refinancing the debt for the district. So really, it kind of sets us up to start the process now, informing you that we're looking at this, and if interest rates look attractive, we pull the trigger and refinance and try to capture as much savings as possible. Interest rates have come down over the last couple of years, leading to this potential opportunity. And by refinancing, we have the potential to capture approximately $3.4 million based on where we're seeing current interest rates in the municipal bond market for this type of debt. So, the debt that we're looking at has coupon rates in the 4 to 5% interest, range, and we're able to potentially get a lower rate around that 3.25 type rate, which produces that savings of the $3.4 million. This does not extend or shorten up the refinancing. It simply looks at taking the higher cost debt and replacing it with lower cost debt. If we go to the next page, this is just a quick little rundown of the timeline. So today, just again, informational, letting you know that this is being worked on. We've got a lot of different items to achieve over the next several months to be in position to potentially capture the savings. So by the end of 2025, we would conduct a Moody's presentation. This is, again, where myself and others will participate in a presentation to Moody's talking about all the positive things going on with the district, where ultimately they will assign a bond credit rating. That rating is important because it drives what type of interest rate we're going to receive in the municipal bond world. So that's going to take place at the end of December. The board meeting to approve the parameters borrowing resolution would occur on January 30th, and then potentially jumping into the bond market early February and closing by that mid-March, the earliest we can. So a few more steps. Again, we just wanted to get this in front of you, let you know that this is something that we're evaluating. If the opportunity continues to present itself, we would like to move forward with capturing the savings.
Are there any questions for Justin? Yeah. Liz?
So this type of debt is the appropriation debt tied to the Pfizer Forum. So this is outside the dedicated tax revenues. So it's more based on the state's credit versus the district's credit. The district went through a bond rating process last year when we conducted the defeasance transaction, and that actually led to a multiple notch upgrade because they saw everything positive going on at the district, plus paying down some of the debt with the accumulated reserves like we talked about last year. So it sets us up nicely for the future if there was a future financing related to the dedicated tax bonds. But this is separate from that type of revenue structure and focused more on the appropriation bonds that Kyle mentioned we partnered with the state on for this type of financing. So it's been since 2016 since we went through the rating process related to these type of bonds.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Greg?
What is the rate differential now to then? Just curious.
The rate differential between the refinancing and the outstanding bonds. So the outstanding bonds right now have rates they have one coupon at 2%. The remaining debt is callable with coupon rates between 4 and 5%. So those are the maturities that we're looking at refinancing to try to get potentially a 3% interest rate replaced with 3% debt. So about a 1 to 2% difference.
Will the call feature still be in place, or is it going to go away with that?
That's going to go away then, yes.
Good questions. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Thank you, Justin. And as always, if the board has any additional questions, feel free to contact me or Marty directly. In the coming month, we'll circulate a memo to the board on this transaction and provide a response to any questions that were submitted. Thank you.
All right, with that, I will turn it over to Marty for his CEO report.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations. Nice job, you and your team. Really proud of the job you and the team did in working with leadership and all the staff to get this budget put in place. And I'm confident we will achieve what we've put together, but really appreciate the efforts that you stepped into. And attaboy. Later in my report, I will share an update on hiring activities over the past few months. But I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Janine Sherman, our new Vice President of Marketing and Communications. Janine, could you stand up, wave to the group. Janine comes to us from the Wisconsin Historical Foundation, where she has been the Marketing and Communications Director since 2021. Prior to this, she's been with Vivint Health in Milwaukee, Carroll University, and prior to Carroll, she spent over a decade with Visit Milwaukee. I'd also like to introduce Brandon Snelling, our new Vice President of Facilities. Brandon? Okay, I can't, sorry, can't turn. Brian joined us 2 weeks ago. Previously, he was Director of Facilities for Caesars Entertainment in Danville, Virginia. He and his family have already moved to Milwaukee and are in the process of getting settled. Welcome, both of you, to our team. Since the September 26th board meeting, the WCD and Visit Milwaukee sales teams have closed 34 new contracts for events as far out as 2029. Least we forget, ASCE is contracted in 2034, and by the end of this year, we expect to contract our first event in 2035. Notable events we've hosted since the last board meeting include Harley-Davidson's Dealer Forum that welcomed 1,600 dealers from around the world to talk shop and learn about the latest developments and innovations coming out of Milwaukee. NostalgiaCon, where 2,500 attendees immersed themselves in a captivating 90s and early 2000s experience with top-notch artists, celebrity guests, and music from these 2 decades. The Pokemon Regional Tournament occurred with an estimated attendance of 8,000. We hosted the 3rd annual Emergency Gun Violence Summit, the largest gun violence prevention event in state history, with over 400 attendees, who heard from survivors, national experts, faith-based leaders, elected officials, and advocates. The Hunting Moon Powwow 2025 gathered together 14,000 to celebrate Native Americans through a celebration of singing, drumming, and dancing. Tempo's 50th anniversary gala welcomed over 600 guests and celebrated women in leadership for their first ever gala. The MMAC all-member meeting took over the Baird Ballroom with over 1,000 attendees, and where the business community of the region gathered to celebrate 164 years of regional business leadership, talked about building tomorrow's workforce today, highlighted record-breaking growth and momentum, and what makes our community livable and irresistible. And the UNCF Empower Me Tour 2025, a national series established to inspire and motivate high school students, college students, and recent college graduates toward academic excellence, career success, and personal responsibility. Just this week, we welcomed 800 attendees into Baird Ballroom. Notable meetings and conventions scheduled for the remainder of 2025 include 2025 Oireachtas, the Irish Dance Teachers of Mid-America, comprised of teachers and adjudicators registered in 14 U.S. states, where we will welcome over 3,000 Irish dancers over Thanksgiving weekend. And Marketplace Wisconsin Conference. Marketplace is the governor's annual conference on diverse business development. Since September, the Miller High Life Theater had a busy October and hosted 15 shows highlighted by comedian Taylor Tomlinson and a pair of pop icons, The Temptations and The Four Tops. The holiday season is just around the corner with Cirque du Soleil's production of 'Twas the Night Before will return for a run of 8 shows Thanksgiving weekend, which are the first dates of their tour. Ahead of the tour's launch, Cirque has been conducting their tour rehearsals at the Miller High Life Theater since their arrival on November 3rd. The winter months ahead will see the Miller High Life Theater debut of Blue Man Group, comedy legends Steve Martin and Martin Short, and the recently announced Dancing with the Stars Live, the touring version of the popular TV show. The UWM Panther Arena hosted a sold-out show with pop star Lorde on October 10th. The Admirals 2025-26 season is now underway. They won their home opener on October 18th and hosted one of their 2 annual school day games earlier this week. The college basketball season started last week with the UW-Milwaukee men's basketball team playing 2 home games at the Panther Arena. And the Wave schedule was recently announced, and they will open their league play on Friday, December 19, against the Baltimore Blast. From the human resources world since September, we have a total of 38 full and part-time new hires, 6 full-time and 32 part-time. We currently have a total of 127 employees and have 389 part-time employees. Overall, our total workforce is 516 people. There are currently 5 open full-time positions for which we are actively recruiting, specifically third shift cleaning supervisor, a full-time public safety officer, building engineer, marketing manager, and a guest services manager. The Wisconsin Center District and Baird Center continue to be recognized both locally and nationally as a leader in the world of meeting, convention, and event venues. Exhibitor Magazine has once again named Baird Center as a center of excellence. North Star Meetings Group awarded Baird Center the Bronze Award in the Midwest region, and Facilities and Destinations Magazine named Baird Center as a 2025 Prime Site Award winner. On October 27th, Sarah McClanahan and Kevin Muse of the City of Milwaukee and representatives from Civil Tech gave a presentation to Brian Rutkowski, our VP and General Manager, and me regarding the plans being developed for improvements to the Kilbourne Avenue streetscape between 6th and Water Street. The plan envisions street calming elements, planters, trees, new lighting, benches, enhanced pedestrian crosswalks, and clear, delineated bike lanes. Although the funding to execute the plans do not currently exist, the funding to further vet them does. We were the first stakeholders and property owners to see the presentation and provide feedback. Additional meetings with other groups are to occur over the next few months. Without question, the changes would enhance Kilbourne Avenue and something we would like to see the city move forward. And finally, last week, I gave a presentation at a We Energies and WPS Focus on Energy Forum, where I shared how we integrated sustainability into the design of Baird Center, and specifically, how our upfront selection of energy-efficient systems and equipment will reduce our consumption of energy. I also stressed that we have an ongoing responsibility to the community and our industry to be focused on reducing our carbon footprint and to reducing waste. This direction to operating our facilities is something many of our customers want and what potential customers are evaluating when selecting a venue. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Marty. I think it's well said. A lot going on. Any questions? Okay, great. The last 2 remaining things are the future board meeting dates. We do have one scheduled, if necessary, for next month, which I do believe will not have now due to the passing of the budget, which is great. So let me be the first to acknowledge and happy holidays to everybody, I guess. The next page is the 2026 board meeting dates. Those are all, I believe, Robin, you have sent those out to everybody. They should be on everyone's calendars. If there are any major conflicts, let us know. I know, Bob, you had said we moved this board meeting due to some other conflicts, which was great to hear well in advance. So if there's anything major, please let us know. With that said, if there's any future items, please send those over to me or Marty or over to Robin so we can get them on the agenda in the correct time frame. So with that, I will seek a motion for dismissal. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.